The Buffalo Bills just took a major blow before the 2025 season even kicked off. Dwayne Carter, a third-round pick in last year's draft, is officially out for the year with a torn Achilles. The injury happened during practice last week, but the team confirmed the worst Sunday night, and Carter himself took to social media to acknowledge the surgery is done and recovery has begun. For a player trying to carve out a place in a crowded defensive line room, this couldn't come at a worse time. And let's be honest, this development throws even more doubt over a draft pick that was already surrounded by questions. Let's rewind a little bit here. The Bills traded back with Kansas City in the 2024 draft, a move that helped them eventually land wide receiver Keon Coleman. As part of that trade, they picked up a third-round selection, which they used to draft Dwayne Carter out of Duke. At the time, it looked like a savvy pick. Carter brought a reputation for toughness and leadership and was expected to add some needed depth to the defensive tackle rotation. But his rookie campaign never really got off the ground. A wrist injury in the middle of the season sidelined him for 5 games. When he did return, the Bills had already added veterans like Jordan Phillips and Quentin Jefferson to the lineup, and that effectively pushed Carter out of the mix. He wasn't just getting outsnapped. He was inactive, as in healthy scratches, for 4 of the final 6 games, including the playoffs. That's never a great sign for a Day 2 draft pick in his first year. When you're not dressing for playoff games, even when healthy, it's hard to argue that you're part of the team's short-term or long-term plans. Now, entering what was supposed to be a critical second season, Carter was already fighting an uphill battle. The Bills added Larry Ogunjobi in free agency and spent high picks on defensive tackles again, T.J. Sanders in the second round and Deone Walker in the fourth, trading up both times. That defensive tackle room was packed, and not just with bodies, but with legitimate talent. Ed Oliver is locked in as the anchor of that unit. Sanders and Walker were clearly being positioned as priority pieces in the team's future. That meant Carter was, at best, fighting for a backup spot, maybe even just a special teams role or rotational snaps when someone needed a breather. What made things more complicated, and maybe even a little hopeful, was the fact that Ogunjobi is suspended for the first 6 games of the season. That opened a door for Carter to potentially make a mark early, get some valuable reps, and show that he could still be part of this team's long-term vision. But now, that window is slammed shut. He's out for the entire year, and he'll enter 2026 with essentially no resume. No real tape, no rotation history, nothing to hang his hat on. For the Bills, though, this loss might not feel all that significant. It's not like Carter was projected to be a starter or a major contributor. If anything, he was on the bubble coming into the season. And with guys like Zion Logue or Jordan Phillips available on the practice squad, Buffalo has options. In fact, depending on the role Carter was set to play, likely a backup nose tackle, those replacements might actually provide better production. Phillips and Logue offer more experience and, arguably, a better fit for what the Bills want in that particular spot. What this really comes down to is a failed early investment. A top 100 pick with very little to show for it through 2 seasons. And while Carter still has time to recover and perhaps rebound, the clock is ticking. The NFL moves fast, and front offices don't wait around forever. If Sanders and Walker play like the front office expects, Carter might not just be buried on the depth chart. He might be out of the picture entirely. On a more organizational note, the Bills also announced their team captains for the 2025 season. And let's just say, no surprises here. Once again, it's quarterback Josh Allen and linebacker Terrell Bernard. That's it. Just 2 captains, same as last year. In the past, Buffalo named 5, 6, sometimes more captains. But lately, they've gone with a stripped-down approach. No big committee, no long list. Just 2 guys with the C stitched onto their jerseys. Now, that doesn't mean there's no leadership structure in the locker room. The Bills still have a leadership council, a group of veteran players who provide input and help shape the culture. But in terms of official captains, Allen and Bernard are the only ones. And let's be real, if you're going to pick just 2, those would be the picks. Allen is the unquestioned face of the franchise. Bernard stepped up in a huge way last season, taking over the middle linebacker role and becoming one of the most important voices on the defense. Still, Some fans were expecting to see new names emerge in the captain discussion. Players like Dion Dawkins, Christian Benford, and even long snapper Reed Ferguson had been floated as candidates. Others thought this was the year we might see someone like Greg Rousseau or Taylor Rapp earn the nod. But the Bills stayed consistent. And maybe that's part of the point. Continuity, clarity, keeping things simple. After all, this team has been through plenty of transition, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Speaking of transitions, let's talk about a few familiar names who found new homes for the 2025 season. Some former Bills are on the move. Amari Cooper signed with the Raiders. Rasul Douglas is now with the Dolphins, and Von Miller landed in Washington with the Commanders. Each of these players is in a different place in their careers, but all three moves make sense in context. Take Rasul Douglas. Miami had a glaring need at cornerback. Their depth chart was razor thin, and Douglas gives them a veteran presence who fits perfectly in what they're trying to do schematically. He's a physical tackler, reads the field well, and isn't going to be asked to do too much in terms of man coverage. The Dolphins are likely going to lean into more conservative coverages. Think cover 2, cover 4, and just ask their corners to keep things in front and make tackles. That's where Douglas can still contribute. He's not the player he was 3 or 4 years ago, but he can still hold his own in the right scheme. Then there's Amari Cooper, back with the team that drafted him. The Raiders are in the middle of a weird offensive reset. Jacoby Myers wants out, the tight end room is young, and they've got Geno Smith under center. That's not exactly a murderer's row of skill talent. So Cooper steps in as a reliable target for a veteran quarterback, and the opportunity should be there for him to produce. Von Miller to the Commanders is the most intriguing of the three. Washington needed help at edge rusher. They have some talent on defense, and with a dynamic rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels, there's some buzz around what this team could become. Miller isn't the all-pro monster he once was, but if you're Washington and you're trying to stay competitive while developing young talent, adding a guy like Von makes sense. Leadership, experience, situational pass, rush ability. Those are all things Miller can still provide. So when you step back and look at the big picture, the Poyer signing might be less about sending a message to Bishop or Rapp and more about insulating the position group against the unknown. Because right now, neither Bishop nor Rapp can be trusted for a full 17-game slate. Poyer give you baseline. He may not be in his prime anymore, but he knows the system, understands the assignment, and can step in without the coaching staff having to overthink things. And in a defense that's going through a philosophical shift, more aggression, more blitzing, more stress on the back end, that experience becomes even more valuable. It's one thing to put young talent out there in a bend-but-don't-break scheme. It's another to throw them into the fire when you're sending extra bodies on third down and counting on them to hold up in single coverage or cover 2-man looks. So from that lens, the presence of Jordan Poyer is just smart roster management. Speaking of managing roles and rotations, there's been a lot of conversation lately around Greg Rousseau and whether he's more effective rushing from the left side versus the right. It's the kind of debate that might seem minor, but for a defense looking to maximize every bit of production, it's worth digging into. And for a player like Rousseau, still young, still ascending, still trying to fully realize his potential, the details matter. At a glance, the perception has been that Rousseau is better coming from the left side. That's the side he lined up on most frequently early in his career, and some of his flashiest pass rush moments have come from there. But the data tells a more complicated story. According to Pro Football Focus, Rousseau's pass rush productivity, a stat that factors in pressures, sacks, and total rushes, doesn't show a clear advantage on either side. In 2022, he posted an 8.8 productivity score from the left and an 11.5 from the right. The sample size was skewed, with far more snaps on the left, but the right side number stood out. In 2023, the balance of snaps evened out, and he actually produced better from the left. Then in 2024, it flipped again. Slightly better numbers from the right side than the left. What this tells us is that Rousseau might not be a left side or right side specialist. He's simply capable of being productive wherever he lines up, and that's a good problem to have. With Von Miller no longer in the picture, there's going to be a redistribution of responsibilities along the defensive front. It's possible Russo gets more opportunities to pick his matchups, especially in obvious passing situations. That could mean more stunts, more freedom to line up inside or out, and more chances to take advantage of offensive line mismatches. So while the question of left versus right is interesting, the real focus should be on usage, how the Bills deploy Russo to maximize his unique blend of length, power, and quickness. Now, shifting gears a bit, there's been a lot of attention around how certain college offenses impact a player's transition to the NFL, particularly those that come out of schools like Tennessee or Ole Mississippi. It's an issue that's come into sharper focus as more and more prospects from those programs enter the league and fail to meet expectations. And it's not because they lack talent. It's because the systems they're coming from do very little to prepare them for what NFL offenses actually require. Take the Tennessee offense, for example. It's all about spacing, speed, and simplicity. The receivers are spread absurdly wide, sometimes even outside the college numbers, which are already wider than the NFL hash marks. The goal is to stress the defense horizontally and isolate mismatches. But here's the catch. The route trees are extremely basic, and there's very little post-snap adjustment. Everything is binary. If you see coverage A, run route B. That's it. There's no real nuance, no reading leverage, no option routes based on safety rotation. It's point-and-shoot football. The quarterback is never under center. There's no real play action from under center. They don't make protections calls or adjustments at the line. The sideline does all the work. Play calls come in via signs or pictures, and everything is dictated from the coaches in real time. That means quarterbacks aren't learning how to operate the offense. They're just executing instructions. And when they get to the NFL, where they're expected to diagnose coverage, adjust protections, and manipulate safeties with their eyes, the gap is enormous. That's why guys like Hendon Hooker have struggled to make the jump. It's not that he doesn't have the arm or the athleticism. It's that he went from a system where he didn't have to think much to a system where he has to process an avalanche of information every snap. It's the same with wide receivers from that offense. They're not running full route trees. They're not reading coverages. They're not making real-time adjustments. They're running go routes, hitches, and screens. That's it. So when they enter the NFL and are asked to run a full playbook, time their breaks off defenders' hips, and work in concert with the quarterback's reads, they're lost. None of this is a knock on the players. It's a commentary on the system. Those offenses are designed to win games in college, not to develop pro-ready talent. And they win a lot. But the trade-off is that it creates a steep learning curve for anyone trying to transition to the next level. NFL coaches know this. That's why you see some hesitation when drafting players from those systems, unless they're absolute athletic freaks or show rare football IQ traits on tape. Now let's jump into a topic that's stirred up a lot of debate lately, the blockbuster Micah Parsons trade and whether the Bills should have gone after him. Parsons was sent to the Packers for 2 first-round picks and veteran defensive lineman Kenny Clark. It's a massive deal. Unprecedented, really. You're talking about a 26-year-old pass rusher in his prime, one of the very best in the league, getting moved right before the season kicks off. And naturally, Bills fans are wondering, why not us? First, let's be clear. Every team in the NFL would want a player like Micah Parsons. He's a game wrecker. He's the kind of guy who changes everything. How offenses game plan, how quarterbacks operate, how coordinators call plays. You can build a defense around him. So yes, in a vacuum, of course you'd want Parsons in a Bills uniform. No question. But it's never just about the player. It's about the cost. The Packers gave up 2 first-rounders and Kenny Clark, a solid, starting-caliber interior defender. Then, they handed Parsons a contract worth $47 million per year. That's the real sticking point. It's not just about draft capital. It's about what that kind of salary does to your cap flexibility. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. The NFL world is buzzing with excitement and speculation following the unexpected announcement that Terry McLaurin is joining the Buffalo Bills. Rumors have circulated for weeks about potential trades and roster shifts. And now it seems the speculation has materialized into a concrete move that could redefine the dynamics of the Bills' offensive strategy. McLaurin, widely regarded as one of the most consistent and explosive wide receivers in the league, has been linked with multiple teams over the past offseason. But few anticipated that he would end up in Buffalo, a city already renowned for its passionate fan base and high expectations for playoff success. Analysts are already debating how McLaurin's arrival might alter the Bills' approach to the passing game, considering his unique ability to stretch the field vertically and create separation against tight coverage. Fans have taken to social media in droves, speculating not only about how he will fit into the current roster alongside standout players, but also about the potential implications for team chemistry and leadership. This rumor has ignited a frenzy of discussions across sports networks, podcasts, and fan forums, as everyone tries to predict how this move could influence both immediate results and long-term planning for the franchise, creating an atmosphere of anticipation mixed with cautious optimism. McLaurin's reported transition to the Bills has fueled an endless stream of conjecture regarding quarterback Josh Allen's role and the offensive balance that could emerge from this acquisition. Speculators suggest that McLaurin's presence might force opposing defenses to rethink their coverage schemes, potentially opening up more opportunities for the running game, as well as other receivers. This rumor-laden scenario is intensifying the debate around whether Buffalo's coaching staff will adjust its game plans to maximize McLaurin's explosive abilities or maintain the tried-and-true strategies that have brought them consistent success. Insider whispers hint at late-night meetings and strategic discussions behind closed doors, feeding a narrative that the organization is planning not just for a single season, but for sustained dominance. The potential synergy between Allen and McLaurin is a topic of endless discussion, with analysts suggesting that McLaurin's knack for finding soft spots in zone coverage could dramatically enhance passing efficiency and third-down conversions. Meanwhile, fans speculate about everything from jersey numbers to celebratory traditions, further adding to the rumor mill's momentum. Conversations on social media, message boards, and radio shows are saturated with theories, ranging from practical analyses of formations to hyperbolic predictions about championship potential, creating a sense that McLaurin's arrival might represent a paradigm shift in the way the Bills are perceived both within the AFC and across the league. Whispers surrounding McLaurin's integration into Buffalo's locker room have sparked intense debate among insiders, who suggest that this move is more than a mere roster adjustment. It is a statement of intent. Sports commentators speculate that the acquisition signals the franchise's ambition to dominate the league and create an offensive powerhouse capable of competing at the highest level for years to come. Rumors indicate that behind-the-scenes negotiations were intense, involving multiple teams vying for McLaurin's talents before Buffalo secured a deal, which has now become a hot topic among journalists and analysts alike. Enthusiasts are analyzing every potential scenario, from adjustments to offensive schemes to how McLaurin's presence could alter defensive game plans of rivals who now must account for his ability to stretch the field in critical situations. The rumor mill is fueled further by discussions of his influence on younger players, mentorship possibilities, and leadership dynamics, raising questions about whether this acquisition could have a ripple effect that extends beyond the field. Conversations among insiders often include speculation about contract incentives, performance bonuses, and long-term commitments, feeding a narrative that McLaurin's move to Buffalo is not just transactional, but transformational. As excitement grows, the city itself seems poised to embrace the anticipated impact, creating an atmosphere where speculation and reality blur in a whirlwind of sports anticipation. Further fueling the buzz, speculation about how McLaurin's addition will affect the Bills' playoff aspirations has reached a fever pitch, with analysts suggesting that the move could shift the balance of power within the AFC. Rumors suggest that his ability to break tackles, accelerate after the catch, and consistently produce in clutch situations might transform Buffalo's red zone efficiency and third-down success rate. Conversations among sports media insiders speculate about how opposing coordinators will need to adapt, possibly overhauling coverage schemes and personnel matchups to mitigate McLaurin's impact. Fans are not merely observing, but actively engaging in hypothetical scenarios, debating how McLaurin could combine with existing offensive weapons to create mismatches, force defensive errors, and ultimately increase the likelihood of deep playoff runs. The rumor mill extends to debates about coaching philosophy, questioning whether head coach Sean McDermott and offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey will adjust play-calling tendencies to optimize McLaurin's presence or risk maintaining current patterns that might not fully exploit his skill set. Additional speculation focuses on team culture, with insiders suggesting that McLaurin's work ethic, resilience, and competitive edge could influence training routines, practice intensity, and even locker room camaraderie, producing effects that ripple across the roster. As conversations evolve, the anticipation continues to build, leaving both fans and analysts eagerly dissecting every piece of information, looking for clues about how this acquisition will unfold in the coming season. Finally, the swirling rumors surrounding McLaurin's arrival in Buffalo have sparked discussions about broader implications for the NFL landscape, with experts suggesting that this move could trigger a domino effect across the league. Speculation abounds regarding how rival teams might respond through trades, free agent signings, or strategic adjustments, creating an intricate web of potential consequences fueled entirely by McLaurin's perceived impact. Analysts predict that the media frenzy surrounding the transaction will dominate off-season narratives, affecting draft strategies, preseason evaluations, and even the commercial and marketing aspects of the sport. Fans speculate endlessly, projecting touchdown celebrations, record-breaking performances, and potential highlight reels that could define McLaurin's tenure with the Bills. Behind closed doors, rumors persist about tactical meetings, data-driven analyses, and adjustments to offensive line strategies designed to maximize McLaurin's effectiveness while protecting quarterback Josh Allen from increased defensive pressure. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.